she's taken them from $4 million in sales to $24 million. With that introduction, let's welcome our moderator, Nedra Barr.
Thanks, everybody. I'd like to introduce our panel coming up here. Go ahead and come on up, Matt. First, we have Matt.
Hi, I'm Matt Boogoose, General Partner at Venture Science.
Thank you, Matt. Next.
He's like,
Come on up, Amit.
Hi, I'm Amit. I'm the Director of Investments for Nedra Barr.
oh, it's, where is it? Oh, okay. I don't know. I thought it was over there.
Hey, Brendan Rogers, co-founder of WAG, do angel investing on the side in Palo Alto, Silicon Valley area in LA.
David. Oh, I'm sorry, come on up.
Too long.
We'll leave the best for last.
Hi, I'm David Imada, Director of Business Development for Venture LLC in Silicon Valley. We're a VC company. Concierge, I'll explain that later.
Last but not least.
Hi, I'm Ruchi. I'm CIO of the Dana Family Office in Dubai.
Thank you very much. Step over and take a seat. Thanks, everyone. I think we're getting started here. Let's just go through and do some introductions and have everybody tell us about your firm, you know, what makes you unique in the market, what markets do you serve?
Yeah, so I'm Ruchi. I studied medicine in India and then I did my MBA from Stanford. So we have a family office in Dubai. It's called Dana Family Office. And we invest mainly in Silicon Valley startups and then we invest in startups from the Middle East and India as well. Mainly we are catering at tech and healthcare focused ventures. Thank you.
So we're a private investment firm focusing on high growth investment. Our main business is investing in tier 1 venture capital firms in USA and internationally. We also make direct investment to strategic technologies. We have successful track records in developing innovative products and ventures in the United States and India. I mentioned we're kind of like a concierge because not only do we provide collaboration and funding, we take the lead in funding, but we also provide consulting to bring startups that are interested in to get to the point that they can actually get funding. Through our connectivity with over 100 different types of funders, pension plan managers, and relationships with strategic banks like Silicon Valley Bank and British Bank in Silicon Valley. We provide them the full service specialization to get them to what they want to be. And also we're open to work with anybody who wants to see me afterwards. Please come up and talk to me. Thank you.
Again, my name is Brendan Rogers. My role right now is one of the co-founders of WAG. We raised about $370 million in capital. Now I'm getting more involved in the angel investing community. Things that I really look for are consumer-facing, mobile, web, etc., internet businesses. Also, super interested in esports, health tech, mock meets, and then just things that are like super scalable products that have a huge TAM, and yeah, currently investing in also fund-to-funds, YC, 500 startups, and then smaller funds in Los Angeles, such as Amplify Ventures and Bunker Capital.
Samit. I run the corporate venture arm for Mahindra Group here in the US, essentially based out of the Valley. We're focusing on looking at early stage investments around deep tech that can kind of influence our business. So typically like a corporate venture fund would do, we would be looking at strategic as well as sort of financial connections back for the startup investment. So we focus on areas around industrial and manufacturing industry. And in in terms of mobility, the changes around how new technologies that are emerging and autonomous and all. And in ag tech, we invest in health tech as well, and largely around manufacturing sectors that would expand from, say, IoT and leading into, say, how certain elements of blockchain can influence and impact businesses. In terms of check size, we look at roughly about 1.5 million in terms of check size. We'd like to be part of Series A. That's our usual, and then we do a follow-on funding. The fund size is right now about $100 million.
Hi everyone, my name is Matt. I am a founder and general partner at Venture Science. A few things that are different about our group is that we are not a typical venture capital fund-driven firm. We're more like a multifamily office platform. We started out as the direct tech investment arm of our own family office, the Iris family office, in San Francisco and Marin County. And our approach is more known for a quant-driven calculated approach. And on that subject, I'm a columnist on TechCrunch, so those of you who are interested, look up my name and read some of our articles on that. And that's how we deploy capital on a deal-by-deal basis. We do about 3 or 4 deals a year. We have a number of known companies. We're early investors in Lyft, 23andMe, ThoughtSpot, Dataminer, Ripple, Circle. Those are some of the unicorn-sized companies that we've invested in. We also have a handful of early stage or seed to growth stage companies. And that's what we do. And for those of you who are interested in connecting with me, I'm on LinkedIn, just like everybody else. So feel free to please add all of us and be happy to talk with you, at least I do.
Thanks, everybody. Given that we have a lot of our audience members that may actually have interest in seeking some investment money from firms like yourselves, what would the top 3 things that you guys be looking for from these firms to get ready for venture capital?
For us, we mainly look at the team. Team is like very, very critical for us, and if the reference comes through common connection, that actually helps us a lot because it helps in the due diligence as well. Then we like to invest in companies who are already making at least a little bit of revenue, and if not, then there's at least something like the FDA clearance in the future or something that we can see a revenue model. And then one of the main things for family offices is that apart from the risk, we also look at exits. So it's important to get an exit, even if it's not for in the next 5 to 7 years, maybe in the next 10 years or so, but that's the horizon that we look at.
On the same page, we talked about the same thing. I'm going to do a little more in depth. So first again, and this is the initial page. I'm talking about down the road to get our attention. That shows you at least gave some thought into your pitch to us, is the business revenue model. That's important. Data strategy is important, the team. But in our case, I'll give you a quick example. So our team, so that we want, so you feel you're qualified to work with us, is we have a board of advisors, right? So they're actually not paid employees, but advisors in different segments of the industry. So that whenever it comes, we have an advisor, and they can also be advising on your board. So you got SMEs. So some well-known persons for young and old. So we have former Democratic House Majority Leader Nedra Barr. He's an advisor on our team. He's on our website. We have Chris Kennedy, part of the Kennedy Club. So he has a foundation, and he helps us with nonprofit funding and ventures on that side. So what we look for in your team is that great to have a husband and wife or tech people with PhDs, but we want to see that you got a good CIO, CTO, CFO, and what we look for is names, right? Names happen. So formerly from Oracle, Cisco, Google guy, right? 10 years of experience with startups. Okay. Then you brought up the team, but want to make sure that you have that. Now, going back to the business revenue model, the mantra for me is keep it simple, understand. We're at pitches yesterday, I had no idea what the revenue business model was. And that's on the initial 2-minute pitch. So my favorite is a Airbnb pitch deck. You see, it's like 8 or 9 slides, right? Bullet points, some nice graphics. Their business very very simple, right? A web platform, users can rent out their space to try to save money. And users can make money and teach our culture, right? That's the business model. Revenue model is simple. They take 10% on every transaction. I understand exactly what the model is. Exit strategies, there's 4, in my case, we think there's 4 exit strategies. The first one is you buy or sell, there's a buy option. You buy a yacht, you buy or sell. Not that common. Acquisition or merger, right? Public, the best one, we have exit strategy. The worst one, of course, we talk about is you close on a business. That's the fourth one let's talk about. But it's realistic, right? And so again, we look at those things and then more in depth, there's other things we talk about. The 3 things, initial pitch, I want to know again, how you make money, what's your model, and who do you have on your board, advisors, or your staff that has connectivity, experience, networking, can help us get funding or can help us get to the sales past the initial gatekeepers. That's very simple.
So I'm in a little bit different ball game. It's, just me. I am at the pre-seed, seed level, rarely Series A and on. And when you're at the pre-seed and seed level, it's, for me, probably 95% of the ball game is your team. I can't stress enough, your co-founders are family. You're going on this journey for the next 10 plus years, maybe sooner, where you're going to be calling each other from 3 to 5 a.m. in the morning. Servers are down. You have cease and desist letters. So I really look at the team. And to be completely transparent, I think the business model, the idea is great. But is this the team that can pivot? Because the majority of the companies at the pre-seed and seed level pivot. Is this team able to pivot and execute on other ideas? That's my big thing is the team, and then also is the total addressable market big enough? Is it something that can really disrupt the world? Is it something that is going to be the next disruptor in the transportation space, or the hospitality space, or the pet space? And then also, metrics is something that I look at more of now, understanding, what their CAC to LTV ratio is, meaning on the paid side, how much are they paying for their customers? What is the early traction with their product? Since I'm more consumer facing, I like to look at daily users, monthly users, what's the engagement like? And having a team that can really understand the metrics and really provide that data and really open up that data room for me makes me really feel more comfortable in the founders and also in the idea. So I think if you are a founder, if you have a startup, really understanding your metrics from day one is something that will allow you to open up more doors for angel investors and seed funds, etc. Because you see a lot of people that will meet with angels and small funds, and they don't understand the metrics around their business. It's unclear, and it's really hard for an investor to write a check when the metrics are when it's cloudy. And then probably lastly, I would say target investors that have invested in sort of similar spaces. I think that is something that can really help out founders when they speak with investors. For example, I don't know really anything about some synthetic biology startups and very science-driven businesses. I'm probably not the right person to talk to about that. However, if you do have a business like that, I would go on Angellist or Crunchbase or something and see angels or small funds that have invested in similar spaces, and reach out to those people and really have a targeted list of investors that you want to reach out to. And I think that would be a great way to start. And then also just working on LinkedIn and messaging people and do your due diligence on the investors. I know with WAG is that from day one, we wanted to have angels that invested in the gig economy space. We, personally reached out to these people, they reached out to us, etc. So having a detailed list of investors that are in your space, I think can really help as well.
It's covered quite a bit. Probably all of the above. I could just do a copy paste of all the three. I don't think investors will just look at three things, and I think that's an example of why they just won't look at just three things. But if you were to just elaborate just on a few more, because as a company scales from pre-seed, seed to say coming to Series A, I'm essentially looking at, are you sequencing, are you basically looking at reducing the risk factor in the company? That just kind of moves on, right? What are the sort of risks you've eliminated from the time you got seed funding to Series A and so on? And the first thing I look at is really what's the traction, right? So from 6 months or 12 months before, since you received your seed funding, what really has to move in the company? People. So who have you added into your team? What sort of strength you brought to your team? If you are founders who are technical, like you are a business dev person, if it's a sales-oriented company, what's the sort of team that you're trying to create is super important at that point in time. Similarly, what sort of customers are you going after, right? And that's also sort of links to two things. One's obviously the founder's vision in terms of where they want to take this company, and there's also the ability to sort of get to that addressable market and the sort of piece that they want. And as you come to Series A, obviously I'm looking at product market fit as a very, very crucial piece, and that's why it's important to sort of say that what sort of traction and what sort of customers you actually got. And these are not necessarily full-blown deployments that you need, but you definitely need to see some big names, some big customers really getting involved with you, or even just the pilot stage, and to be able to sort of segregate that and say that, look, this is a potential to go really big.
So, as a firm, ever since we started 6 years ago, our challenge has always been, what are those things of importance and how important are each and every one of them? And that's what we work on a daily basis. That way, every company that we evaluate goes through the same sort of what we call the selection model. And that way, our cognitive biases are eliminated, I guess, for the most part. And our challenge as investors is really to eliminate those biases. I mean, just because company A was acquired, we're not going to assign additional interest or value to this other company who's pitching on the merits of something interesting is happening in that space. So, obviously we look at team, we look at track record, we look at, how many founders are there. So an interesting little fact that we've discovered is that 2 founder teams are a little bit less risky than 3 founder teams. It doesn't mean that it's a deal breaker, it's just that we have to calculate these risk levels relative to one another, and at the end come up with sort of what's a bang for the buck for us. So when investors look at deals, one thing to remember is that they're looking at a number of deals at the same time, and they're looking at deals in batches. And so maybe they're looking at 8 deals, and then yours is one of them. And so they're going to pick yours or one of the others based on what they, in their mind, conclude that what's a better bang for the buck for me. And at least that's the way that they should have these sort of set of principles to do it that way. And that's what we do as well. I was fortunate, the very first check that I wrote in Silicon Valley, a company got acquired by Google in a year and a half. And when I look back on what they had a phenomenal team, a 2-founder team. It's not really based on 2-founder decision upon the more data, obviously. But the amazing thing that they had, their product was complete from day one. And so they didn't need to spend months and months on end to figure out what this product is. They had their product. It worked from day one. So it was easier. A year and a half, 2 years later, they had offers from a bunch of companies, and they went to Google. And so the stage of product is important to us. In the earlier stages, yes, it's kind of hard to determine what's going to happen later, but the margins are pretty easy to determine. So whatever early stage you're in, I can pretty easily determine what the gross margin of what you're doing is going to be. Are you selling a service like Lyft, for instance, where we're an investor, and gross margins are very, very slim. Now I have to do a lot of transactions. Or are you a software as a service company, gross margins are over greater than 50%. And so we also look at a number of risk factors. We look at whether or not the company is going to be impacted by macroeconomic risks. And what I mean by macro is not, doesn't mean the stock market's going up and down. That means interest rates. That means certain currency risks or country risks and so forth. So we look at that and try to make a determination. Is there a legal and regulatory risk? Obviously, that component is built into the model of Lyft and Uber, right? So the investors knew there was legal and regulatory risk to be passed. They spent a lot of money on it. They still do today. And lastly, one very, very important thing, if you guys ever read Peter Thiel's book, 0 to 1, the book basically says, don't invest in companies that have the potential to be a monopoly. Is this company going to be number 1 or number 2 in its space? We invest in growth stage companies, and we only invest in best of the best. Because there's huge winner takes all mindset going on right now. Mindset, it's a reality, because it's very hard to attract and retain software engineers, quality people. And so the companies that are well funded, the companies that have, $100, $200, $300 million in the bank are attracting, all the top talent that you need. And so it's becoming very, very difficult for the seed stage companies to do that. So is that company, make sure that you're not doing like a mom and pop kind of company. A lifestyle company is not going to be venture funded. It might provide you with a good income for the rest of your life, but VCs won't fund that, unfortunately. And so the monopolization potential is huge for us.
Thanks. Well, we all know that when companies come to you and they're seeking an investment, they're looking for an infusion of capital. But from your perspective, I'm also curious, from your perspective, what other value adds can a firm offer companies that might be interested in an investment?
Yeah, capital, of course, and that's the numbers thing. But apart from that, there's the huge amount of resources that like VCs can add to the companies. Like there's tons of networking opportunities. They have so many close contacts. They have their own circles. Even if they cannot help you out immediately, they definitely know somebody who can help you out. So it's mainly about the network and resources, and apart from that, also a lot of growth. So VCs provide like a lot of acceleration to the companies. Instead of like reaching the goal in 10 years, you can actually reach the goal within 2 years. That's the sort of acceleration that VCs can provide to you because of the guidance. And they've seen several startups, they've seen the mistakes that startup founders make, and they can even help you out when it's time to pivot. They can actually guide you that this is not working out, but at least if the team is right, they can actually pivot and work on a new model. So there's this huge guidance that's there at your disposal when you actually reach out and you get like money from the VCs, like instead of like non-dilutive capital, like debt funding.
So first, additional funding, right? Strategic planning. We also offer, from our point of view, the go-to-market strategy. A lot of companies don't have that. We offer managed recruitment, as alluded to earlier. We get you the experts, either on the advisory board of directors, or on your executive team. Operational planning. Again, sometimes we have to get outside perspective coming in, especially if you're trying to scale up. That's a big thing. The other thing that's a big issue that we provide, again, contract service, because we have connectivity with senior management, CEOs, former CEOs, people on boards, is introduction to potential customers. We bypass the gatekeepers. My senior management has people on speed dial. They know them, the phone mails get answered. We'll resolve internal compensation conflicts. Who gets paid what, right? Sharing, all those things. But in essence, that's the thing. There's a lot of things that they, again, if they need a lot of hand-holding, so but those are the primary ones that we add. So you're actually our resource, right? A strategic partner, and we are, it's a marriage. We're waiting to you guys. You guys do well, we do well. It's not a win, of course. And nobody wins.
I look at it as value add is different from angels to small funds to late stage funds. I think the value add, at least that I try to bring, is like the companies are so early. It's, you know, I'm in the office with these companies. I can provide investor intros to bigger funds, people that can write bigger checks. You know, I can take that 3 a.m. call and, you know, work with the founder if there's any specific issues. And I think in the earlier stages, pre-seed, seed, those are the angels you want, people that will answer the calls at 3 a.m. when the servers are down. But then I think as you go and your company scales, there's more needs that your company needs. So for example, you know, as you grow in a joint venture, your VCs can provide intros to potential JVs or partnerships. One thing that I think is really important as well is recruiting. When you're at the seed to Series A, you may need to bring on a head of engineering or a VP of product or somebody that can help build the team around that person, really build out those works. And good angels and good funds will have people in their network that they can reach out to. So I think that's like probably one of the biggest things is recruiting, potential partnerships down the road, and JVs, and investor intros. So if you need to raise more capital, advice, I consider myself sometimes like a therapist in a way, because at the earlier stages of the business, it's the wild west, and you need people that have been through this before, and having a group of people that are on the same page, it makes the experience that much better, and it provides you know, a lot less friction.
So it's quite different. So early stage corporate venture capital is very, very unique. I think that's why a lot of this kind of funding is called strategics. Now, the earlier notion of strategic investors would be in late stage rounds, but most corporations have realized that they want to set up venture capital style funding. So the CVCs were largely early stage, behave like VCs, in a sense that they're pseudo VCs. I'll qualify that. And the reason for that is that typically venture capital institutional funds would bring in a certain level of experience, like get the resource on engineering, get your CFO on board, because they are well networked, they've seen many exits, they've seen startups over and over again. What the CVCs will provide is essentially the strategic connection to getting your sort of product into the market, which means that there could be a window to sort of scale your product faster, where you struggle to get large customer accounts. I think that's where you should see the differentiation and the sort of use for CVC money, because CVC money comes with these sort of benefits. They wouldn't really work too much on the administrative. There are very few CVC funds who want a board seat. Most people say they want an observer seat or don't even get the board observer seat. So essentially they are not here to manage your company, but what they're looking for is to be able to sort of bridge the gap between the corporation's certain businesses, which they find could have a strong impact, which could benefit the startup as well as the thing. And so it's important for founders, therefore, to understand when you're actually taking that money from a CVC as to what really are those associations and how you can actually benefit from that. And otherwise, really, probably that's not the stage for you to take the money. Another angle is don't take just money from one CVC. You kind of create a syndicate of two or three different CVCs to be part of the round, so that you're not sort of seen as being just aligned to one corporate venture fund. So essentially, the strategic benefit of associating with CVC should be the one that's beyond the dumb money that you're really sort of thinking about when you take money from CVCs.
Yeah, I think in the earlier stages, this is a very interesting and wonderful panel here. To take money from a group like us, for instance, everyone from different backgrounds, a single family office, we're more unconstrained in the things that we do, corporate VC, angel background, entrepreneurial backgrounds. I would love to have a group of investors in these categories on the roster rather than, the same group of people that are potentially going to do similar things. Obviously, everyone can make intros, everyone's got their own networks. And then plus LinkedIn is an amazing place. I mean, you really weigh whether or not somebody only, promising a network. How valuable is that? Could you not personally reach out to someone? Obviously introductions are important too. I have good relationships with the press, so I make introductions to the press all the time. I can do that, not all the time, but whenever it's warranted, we can do that. As a group, we come from operations research background as individuals. My background's in decision theory and game theory, and so we sit down and we figure out pricing and revenue optimization formulas with those companies in our portfolio, and try to figure out what the ideal optimal pricing strategies are. And these are usually very, very, very expensive endeavors. I mean, in our group, we have folks who lead pricing for Uber. Maybe he's led still leading pricing for Amazon. So these people know better than anybody else. And to me, that's very, very important. Just find someone who's a subject matter expert in that specific field, and they're going to do something for you. Obviously, your support system is very important too. The 3 a.m. calls and everything else, and those are great as well. But it all comes down to math. It all comes down to whether or not it's going to work out. It's not working out. That's why you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so, you need to have people in your group, internal and external, investors and advisors, who will help you throughout kind of formulating your economic machine and putting it to work. At the end of the day, your startup, your company has to be a well-oiled economic machine. It should work well. And so that's what we're after. And hopefully your companies, your startups will become one too.
That's great, thank you. Well, we all want Shark Tank, but we also know that that's not really how it works. Shark Tank, you get up there, give a 2-minute speech, and then money flows at you. And we know that that's not really how the real world works. So what should a company do to prepare, for seeking an investment from folks like you? What should they have put together? What should they do to prepare to come to you?
So let me talk about the global outlook. If you look at the US itself, we can actually see the internet trends. The Matter report that just came out last week, and see what's happening. And companies usually try to follow those trends. But globally, that used to happen earlier, and the Rocket Internet was actually very good at replicating models everywhere. But these days, what I've noticed is that people are coming up with innovative models. So for example, in China there's Alipay, and it's like a cashless economy, and India is trying to replicate that. So there's Paytm in India. Similarly, if you go to India and if you want to get your blood test report done, there'll be actually people who can come to your home and get your blood sample and take it to the lab and get it done. So that's something that would not happen here in the US because labor is cheap in India. So these are different trends that we are looking at, and if somebody is coming up with such innovative models, instead of just replicating the US models, that's what's more interesting for us. And in terms of US models, what we are looking at is if there's a technology that already exists, how are you making it better? Are you actually disrupting the market? For example, I'm particularly these days I'm looking at robotic surgeries and all. So robotic surgery is a huge domain. There are expensive robots here, but they're not able to reach India because of the price value of them. So what we are looking at affordable robots. So whenever a new technology comes, it's very expensive, but eventually 5 years down the line, it's all about the cost. The cost and the size of the robot. So instead of having a big elephant in the operation theater, you need actually a small compact robot and a cheaper robot so that it can actually reach out to the rural areas and everywhere. So that's instead of replicating business models, we're looking at innovative business models.
There's, as Pam knows, and I'm sure you know, typically, depending on the amount of money you want, 6 to 9 months or longer to get funding. What we look for companies to do is be honest and transparent. Don't have a website that promises the world and the real data shows that it's close. So we're going to be honest, transparent, have a thick skin. You're going to have a lot of no's. We're going to ask a lot of questions and say, why? Why are you doing this? Justify where's the data, back it up, where's the research, who's your experts. And from day one, I guess once you go to the at a certain point in time, you have to be prepared to go live, right? Just assume you have the money, say from this day, the money, everything's in place to go live, right? Be ready. You can't scale up. You want to have it ready to scale up, right? So even if you're not operating and we have manufacturing contracts in place, ready to go, right? You can't get into contracts. I have a contract with my Chinese manufacturer, right? So get funding from when we sign a contract, it's ready to go. We know the lead times inventory. We've got potential contract with our distributors. Then again, get the money next time. So again, plan to as if you're ready to go. Don't come with us incomplete because we will help you, but it's going to delay everything. We're going to have a thick skin. We're going to ask you questions to death because a lot of people are really good at what they do, right? So they're kind of focused. And they have such faith in what they do, justification, you question them, get them. We're like a marriage counselor, we have to help you dispute between the people in the team, between the industry, with us. And then the goal is that we have that, come on, everybody's happy, and it's the light at the tunnel.
I would say like on a micro level, first and foremost, clean up the cap table. You have co-founders, advisors, just people on the cap table that don't really provide value but have equity. Like try to clean everything from that up in that perspective. Obviously you want to have a clean cap table. Also, I would say be really, from a legality standpoint, just make sure that you're buttoned up from that perspective, just so you're as de-risked as possible, at least from an investor standpoint. Also, like I mentioned earlier, like really be buttoned up on your metrics, provide clear understanding of the metrics on paid acquisition, growth, the stickiness of your product, the engagement of your product. Also, I would say provide a product roadmap. Like what's going to happen in the next year? Like if you get the capital, what are you going to execute on, and what needles is going to move? I think that's something that's super important. Also, just really perfecting your pitch. I think there's a lot of pitches that have a lot of noise, and it's not like to the point, and everyone's trying to solve, save the world and disrupt industries. I would say just really keep it, as less friction as possible, and yeah, just have a clear pathway of what the product is and stuff like that. Keep it very, very simple. You don't need to have this huge thing. Honestly, like I said earlier, my whole thing is the team. I mean, you can. I don't really care exactly if there's like business models and clear pathway to profitability. It's all great. I care about like, is this team going to get in weeds, get in trenches, execute, pivot, and then we can figure all that stuff out down the road.
So I'm essentially looking at one of the challenges is like a founder faces is what amount to raise and what are you trying to solve for. Like, I've seen many startups start looking at, because now funding is obviously significantly high and we are probably looking at big rounds of Series A. So people are really expecting to sort of raise a significant amount. And my only pushback to them is that, do you know what you're raising for? Alright, so Series B or C are rounds where you can probably raise more capital than what you require because you got more investors coming in. At seed and Series A, you're still solving for your next milestone. And in Series A, it's much longer milestone. It's probably an 18 to 24 month milestone. But you still got to be really sharp on what milestone you're solving for, right? And when I say milestone you're solving for, it means key members of the team. It means sort of the key sort of metrics to hit the right sort of revenue metric that you want to start generating for your company to get some key customers in. So it's not about burning cash as much as about solving for a very sharp milestone that you want to hit post Series A, right? So I look for that, and then if you're sort of being able to sort of pull it back into saying this is the cash we need, I think that's a very realistic sort of assessment of yourself, and that's what I look for when I look at a Series A company. The second thing is obviously revenue, right? Now there's a big question about how you're generating your revenue, right? Is it a bunch of 10 pilots, or is it what kind of customers are generating that revenue? And what's the sort of potential LTV of those customers as they grow? So essentially looking at even just your customers list and being able to see what sort of max potential, what sort of segments you're focusing on. Are you focused all around, or are you really looking at going deep into certain segments? I think some of these sort of becomes critical points for our system. Thanks.
So I guess the question kind of evolved by the time it made it over to me, but I think the original question was how to get in touch with us or any investors. So I'll talk about that a little bit. First of all, the mechanics of it. Use a CRM system, okay? There's a very good one called Streak, and it's a Gmail add-on. Every contact, whether it's through, someone that you know, or whether it's, you're just cold reaching out, they have to be in that system. And those are potential investors. And you can create a pipeline there. You can create contacts. Contacted, first contact, second contact, third contact. If you're going to bug me 3 times. Interested, term sheet, money in the bank, passed. You have to manage that very carefully, and it just becomes very easy. You send an email, you can do a little mail alert, you can reach out, you can send updates, you can do a lot of them, because sometimes people will say, I like the idea, it's too early for us, but keep me posted. And I never hear anything back from them again. They're not using the CRM, they're not keeping track of it, they're not organized. So I was right to be not interested in the first place. So make sure you manage that inside a good CRM system. Just pick whichever one you want. There's great CRM tools that are out there, and everything has to be in there. Secondly, when you reach out, write a short, brief email that is free from any bias inflictions. Don't drop in names. Don't drop in, we're 2 Stanford graduates. Maybe Stanford's in, okay? But other than that, when we read it, we know what you're trying to do. So don't do that. Be very straightforward. Here's who we are. Here's what we've done so far. Here's what we want to do. Here's what we're looking for. Would you be interested? Here's our deck. And when you use a good CRM system, a lot of them keep track of whether or not that email is opened. So if the email is open, someone's looked at it, right? So if it's never been opened, that's another story. So you know what's going on, kind of a little bit behind the scenes too. It's a little bit of a hack, but still, everyone does it. I mean, Salesforce, all the large companies, that's what they're doing. And so that email, that short story should be nice, courteous, and free from those biases. And don't use phrases like, we would love to have you as an investor. What does that mean? Investors looking to invest in your company? That doesn't make sense, right? So don't say we would love to and this and that. Would you like to take a look at it? And that sort of thing. And there's great blog posts and articles about sort of this new generation of emails and messaging and how to sort of fine-tune your first outgoing message, first outgoing pitch. So I would really highly recommend you guys kind of stay on top of these current sort of social trends as well as the tools that are available to you.
Thanks. Well, our last question here, we all know that business changes at lightning speed. So what do you see as the future of venture capital firms?
Yeah, I think it's one of the good things is that it becomes much more transparent. That what's happening, what are the things that they're looking at it, instead of right now, many of the VCs they mention that our investment thesis is on our website. Go have a look at it and then contact us. So what's happening these days are their websites and all who are actually filtering out the VCs. They're making their Excel sheets like these are the health tech VCs. This is how it works. And I also came across one app in which you just enter your industry and they'll actually find out the VCs for you. So the aggregation of these venture capital firms, that's how it's working out. And then another thing is that syndicates, if there's a boutique VC who won't invest that much money, but there'll be an option of actually having syndicates and getting investment from syndicates.
Throw my white balance.
A couple of trends that we see, and one we've worked on internally. So internally, we're tracking all our deals, share drive, Excel spreadsheets, very efficient. So internally, we did our own development company, and we
Yep, a
developed
little overexposed.
CRM for say for VC companies, and hope the trend for anybody out there, either buy ours or get your own, because the collaboration, you share files, you got email tracking, it tells you
Are you the mic lady?
what stage everything's in, it sends emails out, you get notifications, and ours, obviously, what system you use, it's going to be organized, like I say, you don't lose track. Dashboards, right? So you can have a high-level dashboard, you have the detail, charts, graphs. Hopefully that's a trend for VC companies because, like I said, you got to organize. So from the requester side, as the entrepreneur side, you got to track it. And it's very inefficient. We didn't see that coming on, so we're trying to disrupt on that side. Another point would be that we see the emergence of public-private startups. Okay? And that helps us look out the peers and diversity. So, man, I come from a business background. I got a master's degree in accounting, finance, and the whole slew, right? I know tech, not that much. So when we do a startup, and I was an entrepreneur, and other people start up, you got to find the tech partner, correct? And how do you find them without giving away your idea, right? You don't want to pay them if you want a partner. So it's hard to find that tech partner. And we know from my experience, the biggest burden is R&D, correct? So a lot of these, so the good thing about college universities, they don't care about making money. They're academic research, right? But now, because tuition is skyrocketing, some endowments are going away, and they want to keep the person's happy, so they keep a portion of the IP, right? They already done the research, right? A lot of government feds do this. So we're looking for startups that has the good management team already. The product's done, so it's ready to the market. R&D's done, and we have academic credentials. So let's say we got MIT, we got Stanford, we see Berkeley professors, right? That gives us credit in the market, and we can look at that. But from an entrepreneur standpoint, the same thing. You got a good idea, reach out to you got an alumni, hopefully from somebody or somebody else, right? We got, I'm on the alumni of my colleges, recruit some people. Reach out to that. Because someplace got probably has a technology for what you want to do. It doesn't cost you anything. They don't ask for cash up front. They just want to bring it to market. So the R&D's done, that's the biggest thing in burn. So that's one of the trends we see. The last thing we're going to do real quickly is a lot of equity done. So in our case with equity, we do our own startups. So we identify some good research, we create our own startup. Like every management team, we got them in, we invest in our own equity, we follow the same procedure. So that's one trend we see, and I think that might be coming down the road.
I think the future we see, well, I think that the angels side of it is more capital that is accessible now to people. You see employees that work at Uber, Lyft, Beyond Meat now, people, Pinterest, Slack, these companies, a lot of these employees are becoming really like cash heavy and very liquid. So I think the angel market is growing at a rapid pace. I'm based in LA. There's companies like Snapchat that now there's a lot of employees that work at Snapchat that are doing a lot of angel investing. So I think the angel market is growing dramatically just with all these IPOs and big acquisitions. And then I see on the later stage VC front is just the fund sizes are just getting bigger and bigger, and there's so much capital. If you look at the Series A rounds, even seed rounds, they're so much larger than what they were like 5, 6, 7 years ago. 5 years ago, people were raising $500K, $1 million seed rounds. Now you see companies raising $5, $6 million seed rounds with really crazy valuations, especially if they're coming from accelerators like Y Combinator and startups. So I think like the later stage funds and whatnot are just the fund sizes are growing, dramatically. Our biggest investor in WAG is SoftBank, and they have a vision fund that's $100 billion. And, it seems like they're geared up to do, fund two. So like the amount of capital that's out there is, I feel like it's at its all-time high. So I feel like the size of the checks will be bigger, and it's really exciting. I mean, if you're going to do a startup, I think now is like the all-time, perfect time, because there is a lot of capital out there, and I don't necessarily think like you have to raise capital too if it doesn't see fit. I mean, a good lifestyle business, like you mentioned, can provide a great life. But it's a great time to start a company, and yeah, I think there's a huge future in VC and whatnot.
Echo what he said, but I think that there is a catch there. I think that generally amongst the VC industry, there's obviously this fear that 2020 is going to be the time the recession is going to come. And so the recommendation I can see very clearly to a lot of founders, who are especially around Series B and C, is to sort of raise more than you require. I mean, I know the DoorDash run quite well, and they just went about raising a lot more. Obviously, the valuation also sort of keeps going up, but that doesn't have any meaning because you're just raising more and more capital, so you obviously have to bump up the valuation, you want to give out less and less. So the point is that people are raising a lot of money, but I think that's in country, and VC funds are flush with cash, and that's happening right now. I think this is a good time to sort of close your round, do it before end of the year. It looks like next year is going to be tough. It's not that the money is going to go away. I think valuations will course correct back. So exactly 2 years back, and Brendan was right that even a Series A post money would be somewhere around 7. Today, a Series A raise is about 6.57 on an average. So I think that the market shifted balloons quite a bit, and it's going to come back. So the money may be there, but it may be again at a much lower valuation and things like that. So I guess that this is a good time to sort of raise a little bit more than what you want, but obviously be more prepared that you've got to be able to find that many more investors, create that syndicate, and create that sort of interest with different funds.
So I think, if you look back at history, 2001 was a terrible time for venture capital as an industry. 2001, 2002, the whole thing came down. And as an asset class, if you look at venture capital, you should also look at it as what it is in terms of an investment class. So all the capital that's sort of free flowing around the world looking for a home to go, it's going to equities, it's going to bonds, real estate, gold, wherever it's going. And then venture capital is actually a very, very small sliver of all of that investable capital. I don't know how many trillion dollars it is right now, but I can tell you, for instance, the debt market in the world is over $1 trillion. And so when trillions of dollars are moving around the world looking for places to land for little bitty returns, and then you look at venture capital and what we're really building in Silicon Valley, these high value add, explosive growth, disruptive technologies, it really hurt still from the aftermath of 2001, and now it's kind of starting to pick back up. So what I estimate is going to happen is more capital is going to come into venture. More people are going to want to invest there. Sort of all of this, especially after the easing that the Fed has done and put so much more capital in the hands of institutional investors. As long as that's up high, as long as that continues and the returns continue, more capital is going to come into VC. And most of that goes to large institutional venture capital firms like SoftBank. I guess, SoftBank is more, in my mind, is more of a real estate company because they spend so much in real estate. But that's what's happening right now. And so it is a good time. It is a very good time to raise, to make sure you figure out what it is that they're looking for. And if you hit those metrics, and if you hit those, then just go in front of them with a solid plan and raise capital. Look at it from just the purely mechanics of a capital that's looking for a home to go. And are you that home? And make yourself that home from team, from product, everything that we talked about. So unless we hit some sort of a unforeseen economic crisis, I see that valuations would go up. I don't think the valuations are extremely high right now because, you know, there's a couple, Microsoft exceeded $1 trillion, Apple's gone up and come back down. These top companies are going to exceed $1 trillion. Once that happens, they're going to start heading towards $2 trillion. And so this company here is valued at 15 million, 20, 25 million. That's no surprise. And so it is a great time. I guess our time is up. Good luck to every one of you guys, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks, everybody. Our time has come to an end. We hope that you learned a little bit today about venture capital. I want to thank our panelists here today. Thank you, audience. See you next time.
Well, thank you, Nedra and team. Appreciate y'all. Now the good news is